I faked my death to escape my gold-digging wife, then fell in love with a rancher's daughter who saw me. I have everything a man could want. A successful career as an investment banker, a mansion in the most exclusive part of Houston, and a fortune inherited from my father. But none of it matters. Not really. The emptiness has been my constant companion since I was 8, when Mom died of cancer. Dad did his best, worked harder, loved stronger, tried to fill the void she left, but some holes can't be patched. He taught me business, showed me how to build wealth, but couldn't teach me how to feel whole again. 3 years ago, when Dad's car crashed on that rainy night, I inherited everything. 20 million in assets, properties, investments. I became the man everyone wanted to know, to be, to marry. That's when Janice came back into my life. We dated in college before drifting apart. Her reappearance felt like fate. Within 6 months, we were married. I thought I'd finally found someone to quiet the loneliness. I was wrong. Tonight, I stand in our darkened hallway, frozen. Janice is on the phone in our bedroom, thinking I'm still at work. "Emily, you don't understand. I can't keep pretending." Her voice carries clearly. "Brandon makes me feel alive again. Jason's just there, with his money and his grief." My sister-in-law's voice squawks from the speaker. I move closer. "4 months now," Janice continues. "And yes, we've slept together, multiple times." My stomach turns to concrete. "I'm filing for divorce next week. Texas is a community property state. I'll get half of everything, even his inheritance. Brandon and I can finally start over." Her laugh cuts deeper than any knife could. "Jason's so caught up in his own misery, he has no idea. Honestly, I've been dead to him since we said, 'I do.'" I back away silently, mind racing. Everything I believed about us, lies, every kiss, every promise, calculated moves in her long game. In my study, I pour 3 fingers of whiskey and make a decision. Janice wants half my life. She can have all of nothing. By midnight, I've transferred every asset to offshore accounts. By 2 a.m., I've packed only what matters: Dad's watch, Mom's locket, and clothes. Before dawn breaks over Texas, Jason Sullivan no longer exists. I leave behind everything Janice thought she wanted, everything that defined me. As my plane takes off, I wonder if anyone can truly escape their past, or if I'm just trading one emptiness for another. 6 months later, I'm standing in a muddy field in Montana, my hands blistered and raw. The mountains rise around me like guardians, indifferent to my past. I've traded designer suits for worn jeans and flannel shirts, a corner office for open skies, and the name Jason Sullivan for Jack Smith, generic enough to disappear into. The small town of Rivercrest doesn't ask questions. That's why I chose it. Population 800, no Starbucks, and terrible cell service. Perfect for a man with ghosts. "Hey, Smith, that fence ain't gonna fix itself." Bill Buckman's voice booms across the pasture. He's 60-something, weathered like the mountains themselves, and the owner of this 2,000-acre cattle ranch where I now work for minimum wage plus room and board in a small cabin on the property. "On it," I call back, hammering the post with more force than necessary. When I arrived in Rivercrest with nothing but a duffel bag and enough cash to last a month, Bill hired me on the spot. No resume, no references, just a firm handshake and a single condition. "Work hard and mind your business. I'll mind mine." I've stuck to that bargain. Manual labor from dawn till dusk leaves little time for dwelling on betrayal or the life I abandoned. By night, I'm too exhausted to dream of Janice. Bill's wife Colleen brings me dinner sometimes, homemade stews and fresh bread that taste nothing like the 5-star restaurants I used to frequent. She talks while I eat, filling the silence with stories about town gossip and their daughter away at veterinary school. "You don't say much, do you, Jack?" she asked once. I just shrugged. "Not much worth saying." She gave me a look that saw too much. Everybody's running from something. Question is whether you're also running towards something. I didn't have an answer for that. 3 weeks into my new life, everything changes. I'm repairing a tractor when the sound of tires on gravel makes me look up. A beat-up blue pickup truck pulls in, and a woman steps out, tall, auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a worn leather jacket. "Mom, Dad," she calls, walking toward the house. Colleen bursts from the door. "Caitlin, you're home early, Bill emerges from the barn, grinning wider than I've ever seen. There's my girl! They envelop her in a group hug, and I feel like an intruder witnessing something I lost long ago, family. Later that evening, Bill introduces us. Jack Smith, our new hand. Jack, this is our daughter, Caitlin. Her handshake is firm, her gaze assessing. So you're the mysterious stranger Dad hired. Her eyes narrow slightly. What brings you to Rivercrest, Jack? Not exactly a tourist destination. Change of scenery, I reply, the practiced line rolling off my tongue. Right. She doesn't believe me. And I suppose you just happened to wander into the most remote town in Montana by accident? Caitlin, Bill warns. It's fine, I say. Healthy skepticism is smart. Her mouth twitches. Well, at least you're honest about your dishonesty. Over the next few weeks, Caitlin watches me when I'm fixing equipment, feeding livestock, or eating dinner with her family. I can feel her eyes cataloging my inconsistencies. I'm too educated for a drifter, too skilled with numbers when helping Bill with the books, too unfamiliar with basic ranch work. I try to avoid her, but Rivercrest is small, and the ranch smaller. One afternoon, I'm taking my lunch by the lake when she approaches. You know what I think, Jack, or whatever your real name is? She sits uninvited. I think you're hiding, running from something big enough to make you abandon your entire life. She doesn't wait for confirmation. The question is whether you're dangerous or just a coward. Her words hit like a physical blow. Maybe I am a coward. I left everything rather than fight. I stand to leave, but her voice stops me. My parents are good people. If you're in trouble, legal trouble, they deserve to know. It's nothing like that, I say, anger finally breaking through. And I'd never bring trouble to your family. They've been kinder to me than anyone in a long time. Before she can respond, shouts erupt from across the lake. 3 men from the neighboring Wilson Ranch are clearly drunk, their voices carrying over the water as they spot Caitlin. Well, look who's back! The Buckman Princess! The largest one staggers forward. Caitlin stands, her posture changing. Go away, Derek, you're drunk. Don't be like that. He's walking along the shore now, his friends following. Remember how we used to have fun before you got too good for us? I step between them, instinct taking over. The lady asked you to leave. Derek laughs. Who's this, your bodyguard? Step aside, city boy. What happens next is pure reflex. When Derek lurches forward, I move without thinking, using the self-defense training I once took as a wealthy man's hobby. Within seconds, Derek is on the ground, his friends frozen in shock. Leave, I say quietly. Now. After they stumble away, I turn to find Caitlin staring at me with new eyes. Well, she says finally, maybe you're not a coward after all. Something shifts between us after the incident at the lake. Caitlin no longer watches me with suspicion, but with curiosity. She stops avoiding me at meals, even occasionally sits beside me. The change is subtle but unmistakable. A week later, I'm repairing the old fence line that borders the western pasture when Caitlin rides up on a chestnut mare. She dismounts with practiced ease, boots hitting the dirt with a soft thud. Need a hand? She asks, removing her riding gloves. I straighten up, wiping sweat from my forehead. Thought veterinarians didn't do manual labor. A small smile forms at the corner of her mouth. Vet school graduate, not yet licensed. Besides, I grew up fixing these fences before you ever showed up. She takes a hammer and begins working alongside me, our rhythm falling into an easy synchrony. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the hills, painting everything in gold. So, she says after a while, where'd you learn to fight like that? I hesitate, calculating how much truth to reveal. Self-defense classes. The company I worked for required it. What company was that? Investment firm in Houston. She pauses, hammer mid-swing. You were a banker? I nod, focusing on the nail I'm driving. That explains a few things, she says. The way you handle Dad's accounts, how you calculate feed ratios in your head. We work in silence for a few more minutes before she speaks again. Why'd you leave? The question I've been dreading. Life fell apart, I say finally. Needed to start over. To my surprise, she doesn't push further. Instead, she says, I get that. After vet school, I almost didn't come back here. Thought about taking a job in Seattle. Why didn't you? Family. She shrugs, but I hear the weight in that single word. Dad's getting older. The ranch needs someone who understands both the business and the animals. As we finish the fence line, our conversation drifts to lighter topics. Her studies, funny stories about the ranch, the first calf she helped deliver when she was 12. I find myself laughing more than I have in years. That night at dinner, something has definitely changed. Caitlin asks me questions about ranch management, actually listening to my answers. Bill notices, giving me a curious look over his mashed potatoes. The days begin to follow a new pattern. Caitlin joins me for at least part of my daily tasks. We ride the fence lines together, check on pregnant heifers, repair equipment. At first, I tell myself it's just professional. She's learning the ranch operations, but I can't deny the way my heart rate picks up when I see her walking toward me each morning. One evening, I'm sitting on my cabin porch, watching a thunderstorm roll across the valley, when Caitlin appears with 2 steaming mugs. "Mom made hot chocolate," she says, handing me one before sitting beside me on the steps. Lightning flashes in the distance, illuminating her profile for a split second. "I used to be terrified of storms," she says, blowing on her drink. "Dad would sit with me all night, telling stories until I fell asleep." "My mom did the same thing," I find myself saying. "She'd make up these elaborate adventures about a boy who could control the weather." The words slip out before I can stop them, memories I haven't allowed myself to touch in decades. Caitlin turns to me. "When did you lose her?" "I was 8, cancer." I stare into my mug. "Dad raised me after that." "That must have been hard on both of you." "He did his best." The lump in my throat makes it difficult to continue. "He died 3 years ago, car accident." Her hand finds mine in the darkness, warm and calloused from ranch work. She doesn't offer empty platitudes, just quiet understanding. "What about you?" I ask, needing to shift focus. "Any childhood traumas?" She laughs softly. "Nothing so dramatic. Just the usual small-town girl wanting more than this place could offer, then realizing what she had after leaving." Thunder rumbles overhead as she continues. "I dated this guy in college, pre-med, family money, the whole package. Thought he was my ticket to a different life." She shakes her head. "Turned out he just wanted the country girl experience before settling down with someone from his social circle." "His loss," I say, meaning it. Our eyes meet, and for a moment I forget about Janice, about betrayal, about all the reasons I shouldn't feel what I'm beginning to feel for Caitlin Buckman. The following Sunday, Bill and Colleen drive into town for church, leaving us alone at the ranch. We spend the morning checking a remote part of the property where Bill suspects coyotes might be getting through. "So," Caitlin says as we pause by a stream to let the horses drink, "are you ever going to tell me your real name?" I freeze. "What makes you think Jack isn't my real name?" She rolls her eyes. "Please, you still hesitate before answering to it sometimes." I consider denial, but something in me has grown tired of lies. "Jason," I say finally. "My name is Jason Sullivan." "Jason," she repeats, testing it out. "That suits you better than Jack." For some reason, hearing my real name on her lips breaks something open inside me. Words I've held back for months suddenly pour out. About my father's business empire, my failed marriage, Janice's betrayal, my disappearance. When I finish, Caitlin is quiet for a long time. "That's quite a story," she finally says. "Now you know why I'm hiding in Montana." She studies me, those clear eyes seeing straight through my defenses. "You're not hiding anymore, Jason. You're healing." As we ride back to the ranch, side by side in comfortable silence, I realize she's right. For the first time since I fled Texas, I'm thinking about the future instead of the past. That night, I lie awake wondering, could I build a life here? Could I trust again? Could I love again? The answer terrifies me. Summer arrives with a vengeance, bringing scorching days that turn the ranch into a furnace by noon. The only relief is the swimming hole, a deep, cool pool fed by mountain springs where the Buckmans have been cooling off for generations. One sweltering afternoon in July, I'm repairing the irrigation system when I hear splashing from the direction of the lake. Probably Caitlin taking a break from the heat. I smile, thinking of how much has changed between us in the past few weeks. Then I hear shouting. I drop my tools and run, pushing through the tree line to see Caitlin in the water. 3 men from the Wilson Ranch standing at the edge. Derek Wilson and his cronies, the same ones from before, but now they're holding something. Caitlin's clothes and towel. "Give them back, Derek!" Caitlin treads water, fury in her voice. "Not until we settle our score," Derek says, his words slightly slurred. "Your daddy cost me 2 hands last month claiming we rustled his cattle." "Because you did," Caitlin snaps. "Now get out of here before—" "Before what?" Derek laughs, pulling out a knife and slashing her towel. "Daddy's in town and your boyfriend's nowhere." My boot crunches on gravel and all 3 men turn. "Wrong about that last part," I say quietly. Derek's face twists with recognition. "Look who's back for another beating. Boys, let's teach City Boy what happens when you mess with the Wilsons." They spread out, advancing toward me. I reach behind my back under my shirt and pull out the revolver I started carrying after our last encounter. "I think we're done here," I say, keeping my voice level as I aim at the ground between us. "Drop her things and leave." Derek freezes, eyes fixed on the gun. "You wouldn't dare." I fire once into the dirt near his feet. The crack echoes across the water. "Next one won't be a warning." They back away slowly, dropping Caitlin's belongings, then turn and run. I wait until they're gone before lowering the weapon. "You can come out now," I call to Caitlin. She swims to the shore, emerging from the water in her underwear, grabbing her clothes with shaking hands. "Where did you get a gun?" "Bill gave it to me after last time. Said trouble doesn't visit just once." I tuck it away. "Are you okay?" She nods, pulling her shirt over her head. When she emerges, her face is different. Something new in her eyes as she looks at me. "Thank you." That evening, Caitlin finds me in the barn after dinner. I'm brushing down her mare, the repetitive motion calming my still racing thoughts. "You saved me again?" she says, leaning against a post. I shrug. "Right place, right time?" "Twice now." She steps closer. "Most people around here would have called the sheriff and waited." "I'm not most people." "No," she agrees, moving closer still. "You're not." The air between us changes, charged with something I've been fighting for weeks. I set down the brush, turning to face her. "Caitlin," I begin, but she closes the distance between us, her lips finding mine in the dim light of the barn. The kiss is tentative at first, then deepens with a hunger that surprises us both. When we finally pull apart, we're breathless. "I've wanted to do that for a while," she whispers. "Me too." I brush a strand of hair from her face, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. "Because of your ex-wife?" "Because I'm not who you think I am." She leans her forehead against mine. "You're exactly who I think you are, Jason Sullivan. A good man hiding from a bad past." That night, everything changes. We talk until dawn, sharing fears and dreams, the barriers between us crumbling. I tell her about rebuilding my fortune secretly through offshore investments, even while working minimum wage on her father's ranch. "Why stay?" she asks, nestled against my side as we watch the sunrise from my cabin porch. "Why work for pennies when you have millions?" "Because money wasn't making me happy," I say simply. "This place did. You did." 2 weeks later, Bill calls me into his office, a small room off the main house filled with decades of ranch paperwork. "Got something to show you, Jack? Or should I say, Jason?" His expression is unreadable. My heart stops. "Caitlin told you." "She didn't have to." He slides a newspaper across the desk. "Houston Chronicle, 6 months back. Investment magnate disappears, wife claims foul play." The headline hits me like a physical blow. My own face stares back at me from the page. "Bill, I can explain." He holds up a hand. "No need. Your business is your business, but if you're running from the law, you can't stay here." "It's not that," I say quickly. "My wife was cheating, planning to divorce me for half my fortune. I disappeared before she could. There's no crime in that." Bill studies me for a long moment, then nods slowly. "Well, that I can understand." He folds the paper. "But you might want to know that the Wilson place is up for sale. Old man Wilson's moving to Arizona for his arthritis. Asking price is steep, but..." He gives me a knowing look. The following weekend, I drive Caitlin out to the Wilson Ranch, now empty after Derek and his father left town. "Why are we here?" she asks as we walk the property. "I thought you hated this place." I hated the people, not the land. I take her hand, leading her to the highest point overlooking both properties. What do you see? She looks out at the sweeping vista. Two ranches that have been feuding for decades. I see our future, I say quietly. If you want it. Her eyes widen. What are you saying? I bought it. The deal closes next week. I take both her hands in mine. Caitlin, I've been running from my past for so long, but now I want to build a future. With you. I drop to one knee, pulling a small box from my pocket. Inside is a simple diamond ring. Nothing like the ostentatious jewelry I once bought Janice. Will you marry me? Help me turn these two feuding ranches into something new, something ours? Tears fill her eyes, and for a heart-stopping moment, I think I've misread everything. Then she pulls me to my feet, kissing me fiercely. Yes, she whispers against my lips. Yes to all of it. As we stand there, planning our empire in the fading light, I know that my escape from Texas wasn't an ending, but a beginning. Jason Sullivan didn't disappear. He found himself here in the Montana wilderness, in the arms of a woman strong enough to heal his broken heart. Yet even as I hold Caitlin close, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, a nagging worry remains. Janice is still out there, still searching, still believing I've hidden my fortune from her. And I wonder, how long before my past catches up with my future? Fall in Montana brings a kaleidoscope of colors across the valley as Caitlin and I stand on the porch of our newly renovated ranch house. The morning frost glitters on the grass, and our breath forms small clouds in the crisp air. I still can't believe this is ours, she says, leaning into me as we survey what we've started calling Double C Ranch, a combination of Caitlin's initial and my real one, though only we know the latter significance. In the 3 months since our wedding, a small affair at the Buckman family church with just her parents and a handful of local friends, we've transformed the once neglected Wilson property. The dilapidated main house now stands proudly restored, with fresh white paint and a wraparound porch. The barns have been rebuilt, fences mended, and new cattle brought in to replace the ones Wilson sold off before leaving. Look, Caitlin points to where her father's truck is pulling up the long driveway. Dad's early. Bill has been helping us combine the operations of the two ranches, his decades of experience proving invaluable. As he steps out of his truck, I see him carrying what looks like building plans. Morning, you two, he calls, climbing the steps. Got those blueprints for the veterinary clinic you wanted? Caitlin's eyes light up as she takes them. Already? I thought the architect needed another week. Told him my daughter doesn't like to wait, Bill winks at me. She gets that from her mother. We spread the plans across the porch table, a converted barn at the edge of the property, transformed into a state-of-the-art mobile veterinary clinic. Caitlin received her license last month and has been itching to start her practice serving the surrounding ranches. It's perfect, she breathes, tracing the layout with her finger. We can start construction next week. Later that afternoon, as Caitlin rides out to check on a pregnant heifer, my satellite phone rings. The one only one person has the number to. Jake, I answer, stepping away from the ranch hands working nearby. What's the news? My oldest friend from Houston, the only person I contacted after disappearing, sighs heavily on the other end. She took the deal, Jason. 50 grand to walk away clean. Relief washes over me. For months, Janice has been trying to track me down, hiring private investigators and making noise about fraud to anyone who would listen. $10,000 up front. The rest after 60 days and the divorce papers are signed, Jake continues. She wasn't happy, but her boyfriend's business is struggling, and she needs the cash. She actually signed the papers? This morning. You are officially divorced, my friend. I close my eyes, feeling the weight of the past finally lifting. Thank you, Jake. I owe you. Just name your firstborn after me, he laughs. How's married life treating you anyway? Second time's the charm? It's real this time, I say, watching Caitlin in the distance, her silhouette against the setting sun as she rides back toward home. She doesn't care about the money or the name. She just wants this life we're building. That evening, I tell Caitlin about the divorce being finalized. We're sitting by the fireplace going over the ranch accounts after dinner. So that's it? She's really gone? Caitlin asks, setting aside her laptop. I nod. Jake says the papers are signed. I'm officially a free man. You've been free since the day you drove into Rivercrest, she says, taking my hand. but I'm glad there's nothing hanging over us anymore. I pull her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. I should have told you something else. I've been moving more of my assets back on shore, under my real name. The ranch, the clinic, they're just the beginning. We can do whatever we want, go wherever you want. She pulls back, studying my face. Do you want to leave Montana? No, I answer truthfully. I've never belonged anywhere like I belong here, with you. I just want you to know that you didn't marry a ranch hand. Your dreams can be as big as you want them to be. Her smile is soft in the firelight. My dreams are already coming true. But there is one thing. Name it. The Henderson property that borders us to the east. They're struggling, might have to sell. If we acquired it, we could expand our operation. Maybe start that breeding program I've been talking about. I laugh. Already thinking like a cattle baron. I learned from the best, she teases, poking my chest. Besides, this valley has been divided too long. The Wilsons, the Buckmans, the Hendersons, all fighting over fences and water rights. What if we could unite it instead? Over the next few weeks, Caitlin's veterinary clinic takes shape, a modern facility that stands in stark contrast to the rustic ranch buildings around it. Word spreads quickly, and before it's even completed, she has appointments lined up for ranchers as far as 50 miles away. I watch her in her element, confidently diagnosing a sick horse, gently handling a newborn calf, patiently explaining care instructions to grizzled ranchers who've been working livestock since before she was born. These men who once looked at me with suspicion now nod respectfully when our paths cross in town. Your wife saved my prize bull, one tells me at the feed store. Worth his weight in gold, that animal. She's good at what she does, I reply, unable to keep the pride from my voice. You both are, he says, surprising me. That double C brand is starting to mean something around here. On a crisp October morning, I'm going through the mail when I find a large envelope from my attorney in Texas. Inside are the final divorce papers, along with documents showing the transfer of all my remaining assets back into my name. A clean slate. I find Caitlin in her clinic reviewing patient files. The morning light streams through the windows, catching the gold in her auburn hair. She looks up as I enter, her smile still affecting me the same way it did the first time. Hey, you, she says. Everything okay? I hold up the envelope. More than okay. It's official. Jason Sullivan is back from the dead. She sets down her papers and walks over, wrapping her arms around my waist. I preferred him alive anyway. You know what this means? I murmur against her hair. We can finally merge the properties legally, put everything in both our names. The double C will be official. Our empire, she laughs. But then her expression grows serious. Jason, there's something I need to tell you. My heart stutters. What is it? She takes my hand and places it gently on her stomach. We're going to need to add another C to the brand. For a moment, I can't speak, can't even breathe. A baby? I finally whisper. She nods, her eyes shining. Due in May. I pull her close, overwhelmed by a joy I never thought I'd feel. This woman who saved me, this life we've built together, now expanding in the most miraculous way. Are you happy? She asks, her voice small against my chest. Happy doesn't begin to cover it, I say, voice thick with emotion. As we stand there in the morning light planning our future, I can't help but marvel at how far I've come from that broken man who fled Texas with nothing but betrayal and bitterness in his heart. The money, the properties, the business success, none of it matters compared to this. A true partner, a home built on honesty, and now a family of our own. The man who disappeared is truly gone. In his place stands someone stronger, someone worthy of the love Caitlin gives so freely. Jason Sullivan isn't hiding anymore. He's finally come home. 5 years later, I stand on the ridge overlooking what the locals now call the Sullivan Valley. The Double C Ranch stretches across 3,000 acres of Montana's finest grazing land. The former Wilson property, the original Buckman Ranch, and the Henderson pastures we acquired 2 years ago. Spring has come early this year, painting the valley in vibrant greens and wildflowers. In the distance, our new barn gleams red against the landscape, housing the state-of-the-art breeding program that's put our name on the map. The automated irrigation systems I installed last summer keep the fields lush, while solar panels power most of our operations. Daddy, look! A small voice calls from behind me. I turn to see our 4-year-old son, Connor, racing up the hill, his dark hair wild in the wind. Behind him, Caitlin follows more slowly, her hand resting on her swollen belly. 7 months along with our second child, a girl according to the ultrasound. Grandpa showed me the new calves, Connor announces, launching himself into my arms. I catch him easily, swinging him onto my shoulders. Did he now? And did you help name them like we talked about? Uh-huh. The black one is Thunder and the spotted one is Freckles. Caitlin reaches us, slightly breathless. Your son wanted to name the third one Hamburger, but Dad convinced him otherwise. I laugh, offering her my free arm. Smart man, your father. We stand together, surveying our kingdom. What started as my desperate escape has become our legacy, something to pass down to our children and their children after them. Last month, we renewed our vows in a ceremony on this very hilltop. Not the hurried courthouse wedding of 5 years ago, but a proper celebration with friends and family. Bill walked Caitlin down a flower-strewn aisle, and Connor served as ring bearer, taking his duty so seriously that he refused to smile in any of the photos. Janice sent a congratulatory card, a surprise that no longer stings. She's remarried too, living in California with her new husband. The bitterness I once felt has faded to indifference, replaced by gratitude for the path that led me here. What are you thinking about? Caitlin asks, leaning into my side. How lucky I am, I reply honestly. How close I came to missing all this. She squeezes my hand. You were always meant to find your way here. Later that evening, as Connor sleeps and Caitlin reviews patient files for her now thriving veterinary practice, I sit on our porch watching the stars emerge. Bill joins me, offering a glass of his homemade whiskey. Quite a spread you've built, he says, settling into the chair beside me. Never thought I'd see these 3 ranches united. Couldn't have done it without you, I tell him, meaning it. His knowledge and connections helped us navigate the complex world of Montana ranching. He sips his drink, contemplative. You know, when you first showed up, I was sure you were running from the law. I laugh. Just running from heartbreak. Good thing you stopped running. He gestures toward the house where his daughter and grandson sleep. Some things are worth standing your ground for. In the quiet Montana night, surrounded by the life I've built from nothing, I finally understand what was missing all those years in Texas. Not just love, but purpose. Not just wealth, but meaning. The man who vanished in Houston found himself in Montana, and though I still carry my scars, we all do, they've faded into something resembling wisdom. Tomorrow brings new challenges. Calving season, Caitlin's expanding practice, preparations for our daughter's arrival. But tonight, under this vast sky, I am simply grateful. For second chances, for fresh starts, for the courage to begin again, for the journey that brought me home.